Hi, this is Michael Waits recording live from Money 2020 Asia 2025 in Bangkok. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Insurance for the New Possible, where we discuss the future of finance, technology, and insurance. We are joined today by Richard Bracken, Regional Head of Partnerships, APAC at Chubb. Thank you again so much for coming on the show. Money 2020 Asia 2025. Let's do this thing. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be with you here today, Michael. Thanks for the invitation again.
It's my pleasure. It's always great to see you. The last one was so good.
Yeah, you wanted me back. Yeah.
Okay, let's get right into this. From first click to lasting loyalty, like when you really think about it, to lasting loyalty, it's a powerful concept, right? The first time you click on something, how much longer am I going to keep clicking on these things going forward? How does Chubb define and measure customer lifetime value, particularly in a digital insurance landscape?
I think when we look at customer lifetime value, it's really looking at customer that works with us for the lifetime of that customer, what value of that relationship would be, and then how do we then have the right products, services, coverage in order to kind of protect and look after that customer for the lifetime, rather than having a narrowed, siloed view of that particular customer. We try and take a broader kind of view of it.
Is this a change for you guys? I don't think so, but like, I look at everything from a long-term value. Everything, my friendships, everything in my life, I look at long-term. I don't, honestly, in some way, I don't care what happens today, but I care what happens in 400 todays from now. And I'm curious if this is a mindset change for you guys, or if it's something that's just been endemic in the business the entire time.
I think it's always been there with insurance. But then recently, over the last sort of 5 years, then we've had a bit of a digital embedded revolution, as it were, for Chubb. And with that, really, we've had a very much focus on those kind of products.
Right.
And they tend to be smaller ticket items. They tend to have smaller coverages. And what we're now doing, now we've matured that model, is how do we then bring back to the customer lifetime value for those customers?
Right, because look, when I look at the original digital businesses like e-commerce companies, right, their whole goal was just to get you to buy something today. They never really cared about if you come back tomorrow. Right, but in your business, there isn't the same race to the bottom. It's like getting better products, getting better services, and doing those things, which is why I think the lifetime value is going to be much higher. Yeah. And also just a different philosophy around building that.
No, absolutely. So in Asia Pacific, we've got, we do 500 million policies a year. So, so if you look at each of those transactions, each with the customer and the consumer, then you see, right, how do we make this more of a customer lifetime value? What kind of demographics? What kind of personas, what data do we have on those consumers? What's the right product offering for them in order to broaden that relationship? I think
so once you get this data that you were talking about, right, you can move away from generic products to more personalized products. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about this. What are some critical inflection points that enable this shift to drive customer long-term value by moving from more generic products to more personalized products?
It's a great question. So I think Chubb really was at the forefront of the digital kind of embedded revolution, largely through its partnership with Grab and others over the last sort of 5 years. So we've done it exceptionally well, I think, in that space. But what really has changed is that as we look at the size of the transactions and the protection that it gives for the consumers, it's not a right size fits all for all the consumers.
For sure.
But the challenge often we've had is the access to data from our partners. So often we would just connect via an API. We just have a very simple what the transaction is, and then we would attach an insurance policy against that, and then away you go. What's really now changing is, because we built up the trust bank with these partners, is they're now opening the door to broader relationships from a data perspective. So they're enabling us to sort of understand, the transactional information around the consumers. So, how many times are people coming to the platform? What's the residual balance of a lot of the platforms? And then that enables the kind of demographics that people are on the platform. That enables us to do a trigger-based marketing, enables us to do persona-based approach as well to consumers, where we're getting the right product fit for that consumer based upon the activity or based upon their demographics.
So 2 follow-ups, if you don't mind. A lot of people talk about building trust with their customers, right? But you just said something really interesting. We build up trust with when we build up trust with our partners. And I talk about this all the time offline. I don't even know if you've heard me say this, but when I think about Chubb just at scale, I think of this as like the partnership company.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
know if anybody's said that to me internally, but that's just the way I think about it. But what does it take for you to build trust with your partners? Because once you do get access to that data, it's just a different metric altogether, no?
No, absolutely. And often the first product or so with the partners maybe don't go as well as was expected, right? So then, so it's the partners that then stick with us through that and then move on and then really scale with certain products. Then they start to see the value of those products for their customer.
Their end customers, yeah.
So for their customers see value in it, as well as there's obviously a revenue upside for the partner as well. And then they start to see insurance in a different kind of frame of reference, and then it gives us opportunities for other opportunities.
So do those triggers, because you mentioned this word trigger, right? You have trigger-based advertising that you do, or trigger-based acknowledgements to people, right? Does that come from your partner platform or from your own platforms?
It would come largely from the partner side.
Yeah.
So I mean, to give you an example.
Please.
So it could be with a telco. So a telco, somebody goes to do many of the telcos in Asia, their customer base are prepaid. So as somebody goes to do a top up, then that could be an opportunity for us either to sell a very simple cyber product to protect them. Could be a screen protect, but they're on the lower end of the micro kind of insurance.
So this means when I go to do my top up, how does that sales process take place? Is that digital as well?
Many of them have digital platforms where you can basically top up within. Where you go into their ecosystem in order to.
Got it.
So as you then top up, then we can push residual products there. But then depending, because often the amount of data that telcos have as an example is just incredible.
It's got to be insane, right?
Yeah.
Because they're part of every part of your digital life.
So they know the apps you use, they know where you get to work, how you get to work, what you do on the weekend, the social apps, social media. I mean, these guys
know everything.
They know everything. So from that, rather than just then sell, we're talking about bringing it back to customer lifetime value.
Yeah.
Rather than then just pushing a simple product, if we understand they've got an iPhone 15 or an iPhone 16, they live in a certain kind of neighborhood,
right?
Then we could do a trade-in, we could do a battery replacement plan or whatever that is. So it really opens the opportunity.
And do you see because that was my next question actually, is once you build that trust, once you can do these new products, how big of a game changer is that for lifetime value, for customer lifetime value?
Look, it's just massive. So, I mean, what we're talking about at the moment is more on, let's say, digital side. So digital kind of push marketing and the whole end-to-end digital experience as well as embedded. But it also opened the door to click to call. So some people are still more comfortable with using, speaking to someone about insurance products, especially when you get into critical illness, medical product, the more complex products, people feel more comfortable. And so it opens the door there. Then as well, we've got a substantial life business at Chubb. And so it could also digital leads that go onto the life agents that then can have a face-to-face. So it really is like an omni-channel kind of approach based upon those customer interactions.
And that makes the potential lifetime value just so much higher.
Yeah. I mean, the life policy is obviously exponentially larger than you would have with a 30-cent screen protect or something.
Did you say 500 million policies every year? How many policies you said every year?
Yeah.
500 million.
500 million.
That's a lot of policies.
That
particularly if it's just Southeast Asia, which it's not, but if it is, there are only 670 million people. So it's a lot of people buying more than one product.
Absolutely.
This is a little bit of a nuanced question, but like what you said, the telcos have all this data, and some of that data they have is behavioral, right? Where I am, what I'm doing, when I'm going there, when I'm not going there. And then there's also claims data, which you guys have.
Yep.
If you put those two things together, how does that help you make more personalized products for people, right? Because that behavioral data is really different for you than it is for me, right? Like we talked about this before we started recording. You're bicycling all the time. I'm walking all the time, right? So your risks are different than mine. How do you combine all that stuff to make more personalized products?
No,
for people?
absolutely. So if we bring it back, as soon as we're at Money 2020, if we bring it back, let's say, into the digital banking space.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. I think it's probably more appropriate. So that for those kind of, the digital banks will understand, what you have in your savings, often investment plans, what kind of loans you have. And against all of those, there's potential to have different insurance kind of products. So you could have something which is like a savings protect plan. On the investment side, it's probably more of a life. So you want to protect your wealth. So there's a life kind of product that you could have there. So then when it comes back to the kind of behavioral data that we have with those partners, it's when people transact,
Right.
what time of day, where they're transacting, what apps they're using. Then we're able then to kind of ensure if we do push marketing for those consumers, we're firstly impacting the right base, but we're impacting with the right offer that's reasonable for them, that's affordable for them.
Right.
And that could be a face-to-face offer. It could be a click-to-call experience, or it could even be digital, depending upon.
I want to get back to click-to-call in a second. Do you find that as you get more and more data, right? Because if you go back 5 years, you have way less data than you have today. Do you find that you can then be even better at product development and product personalization than you were back then? And are you actively learning is the wrong way to say it, but you know what I mean? Just like constantly iterating and getting better, because the more data you have, the more feedback you have, and then hence the more you can make product personalization more important.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned claims earlier. So
yeah,
we're obviously very focused on claims. Claims are the main IP that we have for our consumers, right? That's the moment of truth for our consumers. So paying out claims, doing the right thing by our consumer is extremely important to us. So looking at that claims data and understanding where people are claiming and the kind of coverages that they have, as well as working with our partners on the digital side and understanding what kind of products and services they're doing. If it's investment, loan, and what have you, as I mentioned earlier, then having the right product that fits. Then we're constantly looking and creating new products in order to cover those needs.
Are you also seeing, remember we talked before about Chubb being the partnership company. I'm super curious about this. You know, when you first started going out to get digital partners for anybody, right? It probably wasn't that easy, but are you finding now that as there are more people having more benefits, seeing increases in lifetime value for them, that now, I won't say the sales is easier, but you know what I mean? People are starting to come to you going, how can we get some of that? Do you know what I mean?
We certainly do get that, and I think we get that more where the companies, if they're a multinational, and because Chubb has got such great global regional coverage.
Right, they're working with you in some other regions. They go, we have to do this now in this region.
Yeah, then it makes it much simpler from an integration and working together, where it can be more challenging if we're just working with one market and then we're competing with local insurers. Then it becomes
fair enough,
very price sensitive. And so this is where the customer lifetime value has come in.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to have a new proposition to go to market in order to create something that's differentiated, basically.
Can we talk a little bit more about click-to-call? I want to just get a better understanding about why it's so important to have these hybrid experiences at scale, not just for even just the most complex products, but even for some of the simpler products. In other words, is there a move back, I think, at some level to, I just want to talk to a human so I can feel like I can really get my question answered?
I think for some people, I think that's always been there. So I think having the experience where it's a bigger ticket, purchase, a more complex product, and having the ability then to talk to someone and sort of say, is this the right product for me and my needs? Then I think it's an extremely important kind of channel that we're really pushing and promoting at the moment.
Got it. I mean, when I bought my health insurance, I spent a ton of time talking to my agent.
No, absolutely.
A ton.
Whereas if it's a kind of personal accident product, then that's probably easier digitally as some cyber products.
Yeah, exactly.
Screen Protect, you probably don't need to speak to an agent about that.
Okay. If we zoom out, what does the next generation of partnerships look like to you? Right. I already talked to you a little bit about, you've been working on this for a while. At the beginning, you want to go out and try to get new people. But as you move on, particularly when we talk about customer value, not just acquisition, what does the next generation of partnerships look like to you?
I think it's a great question. I think having a much deeper kind of relationship with our partners. So rather than, and that's really driven by data and the mutual kind of outcomes of customer benefit that we want to go for. So, I think it's really going for the customer lifetime value. It's integrating with them at a deeper level from a data perspective.
Right.
So that we can have personalized offers for their particular consumer based upon that person's day-to-day kind of needs, as well as the particular transactions or whatever they're performing, is having the right product rather than traditionally, let's say, the embedded has been a product that's basically for all, one
right,
product
for everybody.
For all.
Right, everybody clicks on the button, everybody gets the same result, right?
But then it gets a lot more complicated in order to be able to do that. So recently with a partner, we in order to achieve that, we needed to get 100,000 kind of transactional data points. Then we created 30 different personas. Then from there was 3 personas we focused in. We had to stratify the data. We had to look at the different products and services that we would offer there, and then put all that into a real-time offer for the consumer. So based upon what you do, Michael,
right,
this is the right offer from you. And there's about 5,000 product coverage price variations that we can offer to that particular partner. So that's going to be that's how partnership will be revolutionized in this space for me. It's really a lot more flexible, and it's really data and customer driven.
I have a feeling that this business is going to look nothing like it does today in like 5 or 6 years, because it wouldn't even have been possible for you to do what you just said 5 years ago.
No,
not possible at all.
Absolutely not. And as far as I know, I think Chubb is the only one so far that are doing this, where we're really evolving to something which gives a lot more value to the consumer. There's a higher kind of coverage amounts, and a more value product based upon the needs of that consumer.
Yeah, and I would say like once you run 4 or 5 years ahead of the market, it's almost exponentially harder for other people to catch up, because the next 2 years for you are running a lot faster than just the catch up to 4 years. Just my opinion.
That's what we're hoping.
I think so. But I think that's true in any business, not just in yours. But the way you explain it, and just thinking about like what the next 2 to 5 years are going to look like, the catch up is hard.
No, absolutely.
Right. And you can't leapfrog that, because you have to get through that process first to then be able to do all this stuff you were just talking about.
Absolutely. So we had an amazing foundation with Chubb Studio, which is a differentiator in the market.
Absolutely.
And then, so this is really the next evolution of that platform, is being able then to build out thousands of combinations based upon the consumers that we relate to in the platforms.
Sounds like a ton of fun to me.
Yeah.
How would you advise your ecosystem partners that want to work like that, but haven't figured out yet how to do it, right? Because like we talked about these new partnerships, how would you advise them to say, come and at least look at what these things look like and let us explain this stuff to you? What's your advice to them?
The advice is you've always got to take a first step. So my advice would be to do one product. So you do one product, and then you test and learn that product. You get it working. Always in the background there, you really got to then line up the customer lifetime value and sort of say, where is this partnership going?
Right.
Where do we see what are the products and services you want for your consumer? What are the pain points that you have? So where do you get complaints? Where do you see the key risks for your customer base? How do we then fit products against those risks? I
like it. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Richard Bracken, Regional Head of Partnerships, APAC at Chubb. You're so good at this.
No, thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Great. Cheers.